Copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act 1976. Allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, scholarship, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. Nonprofit, educational, or personal use tips the balance in favor of fair use. Thank you. Now enjoy the show. Hey, what's up, aunties and nuts? What's going on? Good afternoon, good evening for some of y'all, and it's well into the night, for a lot of y'all, for whoever's watching. Listen, let me just say thank you for tuning in to another episode of RAERAEs Live. Yes. Now, clear my throat a little bit, child, because I don't know. I may talk for a minute. Excuse me. I may talk for a little bit, or I may talk for a lot of bit. If some people choose to come in and want to chat about what's going on with Jussie Smollett, then let's do it. I love a good interaction. Talk to me, I'll talk back. It's all good. You know, I have been perplexed about a lot of the commentary over the last, 5 years, maybe 6, regarding Jussie Smollett. Now, things took a turn for me, right? When it was his demeanor. Now, I don't know the man from Adam, you know what I'm saying? But knowing his background, knowing how woke and pro himself and pro his family and how pro-Black they have been over the years, how just they've never been in a family that put on, or they've never been folks to be out there with shenanigans. I'm like, well, why would they think that he put on or did this himself? Now, from what I've learned over the years, any narrative can be formed by just by saying this, that, and the third, and it not be true. Now, when those are in authority or authority figures who are trusted to bring forth the truth, even though they have a history of not being truthful, it also adds to or aids to skepticism. Now, this documentary on Netflix, y'all, if y'all haven't watched it, please do. It's telling because, like I've been saying, he's innocent. I don't see him being guilty. There was a lot of so-called evidence that proved he was lying or guilty of putting on stunts and shows. And I'm thinking, well, what was the evidence? So number one, of course, the stage fight, to the dry run of the stage fight that he needed to have. 3, a check made, as a payoff for a fake hate mail sent to his job. And I'm thinking, Why would he do all this? Now, I heard rumblings, right, about some unhappiness going on at work. So I thought, well, could this all be a scheme and a plot just because he's upset at work? Nah. Now, I'll tell you this much. I will tell you this much. It was far-fetched because it's the polar bear vortex. I call it the polar bear vortex. It was the polar bear vortex of all polar bear vortexes, of course, in the city of Town, the windy, do they call it the windy city? I mean, the cold from my look next to Antarctica. I've heard Chi-Town to be the coldest of the cold when it's cold. And of course, the polar bear vortex would be right then and there in the city. So he's out at 2 in the morning getting a subway. He just got in from a flight of sorts or from traveling. He hungry. Ain't no food in his house. You know, he hungry. Ain't nothing like a good bread, meat, cheese, vegetable, cookie, soda. I'm just saying, maybe he got a little combo thing, chips. Maybe he got a combo. All I know is I didn't see a drink in his hand. I don't know if it fell out, whatever, but he had that bag with him. So I'm just telling you what we heard first of all, that he was jumped by two Caucasian looking men in ski masks. You know, they yelled out some uh, slurs, some gay slurs at him. May have been a racial slur, but I don't recall the racial slur, but definitely a gay slur, acknowledging that he's on the show he was on. And he turned around and, like he told Robin Roberts, he fought back. It was two of them, two big burly dudes, you know. So I'm like, well, at least, he wasn't the only one outside. Just saying. So what was strange was, why is he out there in a polar bear vortex? He was hungry. Okay, that's understandable. So, and he wasn't the only one getting Subway, according to the video footage that's within the show that you're looking at, The Truth About Jussie Smollett on Netflix. Okay. So let's just, you know, go for the obvious. He wasn't the only one who was outside during the polar bear vortex, considering employees are working at Subway during the polar bear vortex. So that must be a hotbed of late night eating that they didn't even want to close for the polar bear vortex. So let's knock out the fact that why is he out in the polar bear vortex when he wasn't the only one out in the polar bear vortex. Okay, so another piece of circumstantial evidence, the so-called dry run. Now let me see if I can get this together so I can show you this so-called dry run that they are talking about, right? What they said about the dry run was that he drove on the street as a dry. First of all, they said he did a dry run. That was brought into evidence. And the dry run was filming him driving along the same street that the incident happened. And I'm thinking, at the time, y'all, just think about the dry run. That's part of the evidence. The dry run, they said, Poponia, the state, I guess, said that he drove on the street. Now, dry run means that you're acting out what will happen. That's dry run. So I'm thinking, when they showed the footage of him driving on the street, he didn't get out the car. He didn't get out the car to simulate a fight. He didn't uh, park the car, go back to the spot along the street and do anything. He just was driving his car. Mind you, it was the same street to where he was staying. So wouldn't it make sense that he would drive on that street just because? This is what I'm thinking when I'm hearing them say from what they showed us him doing a dry run. They just showed him driving on the street. He didn't stop the car. He didn't slow down. He didn't do any wheelie, what they call them things? Like just circles or turns. Or he didn't drive backwards. He didn't do anything but just drive along the street. And they only had one time that he drove on the street. And that's what they considered a dry run, y'all. That's a dry run. That's a dry run. That right there could have been. Oh, listen. I don't know anyone who could think him driving along the street would be considered a dry run of the incident of him getting beat up on. Okay, next. Now, they have the actual check, right? The actual check written to one of those brothers, whether it was Ola or what's his name? What's the brother's name? Ola and let me see. What's their name? What's their name? What's their name? Anyway, one of the brothers. And the check, they said the check was payment for, the stage fight. And I'm thinking, how could it be that, this is happening? So just to show you, like, really? That's what we doing? That's what we doing. This check here. Really? The check was in regards to them training him, the what's his name? Yeah. Abel. The check was in regards to the training that he was being given. The check was for being trained due to him wanting to get his body together. He wants to be the best he could be as far as an actor, his looks, and all of that. So next, they say there's the rope. Okay. The rope was tied around his neck when he got there. People thought that was strange. I wouldn't have that, rope around my neck all that time waiting for the police to come. It's just ridiculous. I'm thinking, how is this ridiculous? How is it ridiculous? You know what I'm saying? It's kind of strange, but at the same time, he's in his feelings of sorts. But we're going to get to that because Jussie cleared that up. Then they have text messages saying, are you available and all this, that, and the third. And I'm like, oh, wow. They got all these texts, but nothing says, nothing is mentioning. Go get, no one is mentioning anything like that. Okay, so another piece of evidence they were referring to was text messages. And, talking about, let's, are you available? Let's do something on the low. Well, that was also explained by Jussie. And nothing in that text message referenced any type of, let's, I need you to beat me up, or I need you to, let's stage a coup or anything like that. Just, I want to talk to you about doing something on the low. And they connect that to, they're connecting all of that to it being a setup, a hoax, all based on what the brothers told the police. Now, let's get to that. What was really bothering to me was, at the time, the police really wasn't trying to help Jussie. Hold on, I'm gonna get some water. Hold on. Okay, so they have all this so-called evidence based on the test, based on the uh, words of the brothers, Osandario brothers. Now, how they outlined it was real stank, in my opinion. Real stank. So, of course, we all know what happened as far as how the events occurred. So, this backstory was was given to us, and I'm glad it was, because it proves my theory. Well, I have another part to the theory of, I believe he was framed. I believe he's innocent of staging this himself. I don't believe he did this. I believe he was framed, and I believe those two brothers were in on it. I'm gonna get to that a little bit later. So all of the so-called evidence that they had on him here, text messages and the rope, and pretty much all of this was based on what the brothers told the police. For instance, here you go. The brothers buying they're at the store buying what they were buying, the paraphernalia, the rope, the MAGA hats, and all of that, to hurt or to pretend like they were jumping Jussie. Now, what was really wild, in my opinion, was how how and why would they do this to him? Just real quick, here's the letter, right? Here's the letter right here that's pointing to the hate mail that he received at work. Okay. Now, again, what was strange to me was, why would these two guys that he worked with, close with, some say that they had some type of, romantic, he and one of the brothers had maybe a romantic relationship going. Why would they say these things? So I'm gonna give you a little more detail from the actual Netflix uh what do you call it? The Netflix uh documentary. Okay, so during the initial stages of investigation, you know how there are some reporters, journalists sniffing around trying to get a story. Maybe they can get something, before anybody else, similar to how we do as content creators. Pretty much those who are on the East Coast get certain shows, get the shows first. So generally, those content creators on the East Coast will put out their commentaries, their reviews, their shows before us who are lagging due to the time zone, or if we don't have East Coast viewing capabilities, such as myself, you're going to get my commentary, my review hours later, maybe a day or two later, depending on the schedule of things, right? So that's pretty much how the reporters work. Well, I gotta get the story first. I gotta get this out. I need some viewership. I need people to read my stuff. I need people to quote me. So this one particular journalist out there in Chi-Town talking with Popo once, can you give me a little something, something? It's like, nah, we still investigating, but I will tell you this. I will tell you this. And this is what the Popo told the reporter. We're taking it seriously, but skeptical. Ain't that nothing? You mean to tell me you are investigating a hate crime? Could be a double hate crime. Like I said, I don't know if they mentioned race, but they definitely ridiculed him as a gay man, beating him up and carrying on, and also the hate mail, all of that. Yeah, so Popo allowed the story to run because Popo was skeptical himself. That lead Popo, that black man. Yeah. Uh-huh. The black man is pretty much spearheading spearheading all of this hate when he's supposed to be protecting and serving those who have called out for help. Ain't that ooh? I ain't gonna get on that soapbox. I'm gonna stay right here. So Lee Popo gives the reporter leg up, talking about we taking it seriously but skeptical. Ran with the story. All of a sudden, now when folks hear a narrative, their minds start to going, oh, this, oh, that, oh, must be this, oh. Now, if it is this is what we're gonna talk about, but it's not. So why are we discussing it? Okay. People love to say, even though the apple is red, if it was orange, this is what I would do. And the whole narrative storyline is based off of what I would do if this red apple was orange. A whole orange situation has jumped off, and then people follow suit. That's pretty much what happened. All of a sudden, Jussie's like, what is going on? Like, what is happening here? I'm the victim. Now all of a sudden I'm being looked at as some now I'm being vilified. What? And it further enrages him that now they're looking at me as somebody who's lying about this. I know what I saw. I know what happened to me. And I don't blame them, because there's already a distrust, a loathing, and continuous disrespect that people like him receive from those who are supposed to protect and serve. So he did what he was supposed to do, but the Popo, excuse me, ain't doing what they supposed to do. Instead, they rather go with this particular narrative that he faked it or something's not right because the elements don't add up. For example, the Popo said it's a I'm saying polar bear, but he said polar vortex. Who will be out like that? Well, it's people working at Subway, Video footage shows other people getting sandwiches. Are you going to question their life? Are you going to question why is Subway open? No. If it's open, people going to go there and eat. He hungry. Ain't nothing in the house to eat. I mean, why question someone going out during the polar bear vortex when they're not the only ones going out in the polar bear vortex? Just saying. Then the lead popo is talking about, well, this just can be happening in my city, but things do happen in your city, as reported hundreds, maybe tens of thousands of cases where his officers have charges against them for unaliving folks, beating up folks, stealing from folks, planting evidence, destroying evidence. All of that is written in the papers. Y'all can go look that up. It was reported on this Netflix show. So I'm thinking, how could he question the motive of the victim when he got all that going on at his workplace? Child, I tell you, when folks textbook guilt. Anyway, so the lead, what else the lead popo say, child? Because I got a whole lot to say. Okay, so lead popo, what else you say, child? So I took notes. You know how I be taking my notes, child. So he told the reporter, like I said, we're taking it seriously but skeptical. Number one, who will be out at the polar bear vortex? I already told you about that. Then, during the initial investigation, they wanted Jussie's phone. He didn't want to give up his phone, so that also made Lee Popo suspicious. Why suspicious? So essentially what I'm hearing is when someone tells Lee Popo and them no, all of a sudden they're looked at as not credible. If you're not going along with Popo's program over there in Chi-Town, then they're not going to follow through on the issues that you called them for. That's what it's sounding like. So I can see he was a problem then, and if he's still employed there, he's a problem now. It didn't add up to me, because I thought, well, if he don't want to give up his phone, why does he need to give up his phone when he's the victim? And why not ask him for certain details? Okay, so do you have this? Do you have that? Can you send it to us? None of that was mentioned. They just wanted his phone. Child, listen. And because they didn't mention, can you at least send us this, that, and the third? Then it wasn't even mentioned to Jussie. They just wanted his phone. Probably to rule him out as a suspect. Is what it sounds like, because if they're not giving him or asking him for specific detailed info to send them so they can check it out, then perhaps they're already, during the initial investigation, looking at him as someone who's not credible. Again, why would he be out 2 a.m? So more so on, it was just these doggone Popo folks. Once they investigated who could have done this to Jussie, they were really, okay, let's just say this. They were on a mission to find these 2 guys. So they have camera footages of businesses nearby. And it was another hotel where they were running past it, and they have 2 men running. So they also have someone coming out of that building, which happened to be a security guard, y'all. A security guard of that other hotel that was next to Jussie's. Ain't that nothing? That security guard gave a statement. Y'all ready for this? The security guard next to the hotel Jussie was in said he had his flashlight ready because it's, again, 2 in the morning. He's doing his job, He walk out the door. He hear fast steps approaching, and he raises his flashlight and sees, guy dressed just as Jussie described, and only the eyes cut out, and you can see that they were Caucasian men running. Did y'all hear that? Yeah. So the security guard, is this your first time hearing this? It's my first time hearing this. I wonder why this is my first time hearing this. And this happened, what, 2018, 2019? Strange how this is the first time this bit of info was released to the public. Now, if it was released before and I didn't hear it, fine, let me know. However, I don't believe it was, because the folks would have been on this bit of information like white on rice, no pun intended. So again, camera footages show 2 men running by the hotel next door to where the incident happened, to where Jussie was jumped. And the security guard of that other hotel comes out, has his flashlight on him. White guy. He can tell from the skin. Hey, he said white. He didn't say light skin. He didn't say, he just said something like a white man, Caucasian man running by him, both of them. And he gave all of that to the cops, and it's written in the cop statements that they took. Ain't that nothing? Written in the statements from the popo. Now, again, why we didn't hear this, I don't know. So let's go back to what the popos were actually investigating. So remember how I said there were 2 white guys running down the street? Okay. So now the popo is investigating that there was one call made, just one call for a ride share type of thing, Lyft or Uber, whatever the case was, that picked up somebody from that area and took them, towards the other side of town. And it dropped them off, and it was listed under the name of one of those Osundario brothers. So they said, okay, we got a lead. And they tracked the camera footage, and it let him off nearly to the address to where he was staying. So when they tried to locate where they were, they kind of got to a dead end. However, the name on the ride share gave them a leg up, right? So they didn't approach them at first. They found out where they were, but at the time they found out who they were and where they lived, they were already back home in Nigeria. So they took a flight out. Okay. So during this time, Popo was waiting for them to come back, because they live here, so they're going to come back. During this time, they contacted Jussie that they think they have a lead and they need him to come identify some folks in a lineup. Now, their lineup nowadays is pictures. It wasn't the usual where we see on TV where, you go behind the glass, point out, so-and-so who's standing up there facing you. That two-way mirror situation. So they're all pictures, and it's all black guys. And Jussie was like, these are all black men, African-American men. I told you there were 2 white men who attacked me. Mind you, they did the same thing with the security guard. The security guard said, no, they were white men, not black men. They said, oh, well, just go ahead and see if you can pick. That's what Popo told the security. Remember the security guard from next door? Yeah. Popo said, well, just go ahead and pick who you think it could be. This is how they police y'all out there in Chi-Town. So the security guard should have said, no, bring me some white men. Instead, he said, I just picked the lighter one of the bunch, but then, that's just a picture. Yeah, fool. You shouldn't have picked nobody and said, bring me some white guys. Anyway, so Jussie was like, what are you doing? I said, these are white guys. And they gave him pictures of, not a lineup. They gave him pictures of the Osundaria brothers. He's like, I know these people. Why are you giving these pictures to me for me to identify as my attackers? They couldn't, he said, there's no way these two people could have done this to me. That's what Jussie told Popo. So on top of them giving him a hard time as a victim, now I can see, now they playing with me. Like, what is going on? So you can just imagine what's going on in his mind. I don't trust them. They playing with me. Playing with my emotions, Smokey. Then they give me these two dudes that I work with as the people who attacked me. He said, these are not them. Boy, mind you, when the security guard got the lineup of all black men with the two brothers within that lineup, he didn't choose them. He chose the lightest. No, Nigeria, come on now. Ain't nobody over there like, well, they could be, but hell, them two brothers ain't. The security guard next door chose the lightest dude he could find in that lineup picture that they gave him. Child, I'm like, what is going on? Anyway, this is Chi-Town's finest. This is Chi-Town's finest. So what else happened, y'all? Okay, so when the brothers get back, so now we're back to Popo leaning in on the brothers. So they find out that they're flying back. They meet them at the airport. If I'm not mistaken, I think they may have pulled them off the plane. Nevertheless, they got the Popo footage of them, arresting them at the airport. And now they got them, in the room talking. And they, first of all, they were separated. Now they're together. And what's strange is, after a while, they wanted to talk with police about what had happened. So pretty much the Osundaria brothers, like we all know, said Jussie planned this and we, beat him up because he asked us to. What? Now, that's what we all know to be true, right? That's what was so-called proven in court, right? I couldn't believe it. I'm like, why would they say that? Now, what did not show was their bank accounts or their financial whatevers being looked at, combed through. All they saw was the check that was given to them by Jussie. They said he paid us some money and we, beat him up because he wanted us to. Child. So now the popo was going with that. They'd rather believe that than believe eyewitness testimony of a security guard next door. Now, I'm going to tell you something else. There was another witness, just like the security guard, one of Jussie's neighbors that he knows well enough for her to, not have anything negative to say. She gave similar testimony. Now, check this out. His neighbor, she says she's seen him in passing, or they had enough rapport for her to speak up on his behalf. Hello? So she said, check this out, y'all. She said her, little dog Fluffy needed to go potty. If I know where that reference is from, drop it down in the comments. Little dog Fluffy. If you know where that's from, drop it in the comments. Okay, so neighbor next door, elderly woman, not too old to where she can't see. Hello. She's also going out in the polar bear vortex. But the popo didn't question that. Again, the popo didn't even mention her, nor did they mention a security guard. I wonder why. Anyway, so let's get to another eyewitness for on Jussie's behalf that we didn't know about until this documentary. Okay, so the neighbor wanted to go outside, walk little Fluffy. And Fluffy had to go potty. Apparently Fluffy ain't scared of the cold. So, Fluffy has been in similar situation. Look, I got to go. So if you ain't got nothing for me to squat on or plop on in this apartment, I suggest we go outside, ladies. So she took him outside. Fluffy doing the business. She sees she recognizes this man who's all dressed up, just like Jussie said, ski mask, big coat, jeans, everything, with a rope dangling out of his pocket. She noticed it because she says, I'm a woman out here. So, she ain't that elderly, but she may be in her 60s, early 70s, still elderly, but she ain't old, like I said. She's comfortable enough to go outside in the polar bear vortex in Chi-Town with her dog Fluffy. And she noticed, like as she said, I'm out here with my dog. I'm noticing people, things, whatever the case may be, for my safety. I'm just making sure me and my dog is all right. So she notices, excuse me, a man standing close enough in her eyesight to see a rope matching the same color, matching the same description of what Jussie had around his neck. White man. I'm like, I wonder what. So that's two people outside of Jussie that corroborates his story. And no popo investigates that, other than taking their statement. I'm surprised it was in the record, the way I heard they do things over there. But when folks is savage and everything, they can have 34 felonies and still win a presidency. So, but hey, it is what it is. So, listen good. So now we got two independent witnesses. One who wasn't even in the same hotel or even know Jussie. The other one has enough gumption to speak up on his behalf. And that was not the running story for all of us to consider. Instead, they go off the word of two people that said what they said. Mind you, let's go back to the Alessandria brothers. We find out that they hire representation because they want to talk. They got something to say. Come to find out, one of the brothers has a felony. And that brother with the felony, when the Popo searched their home, they found all sorts of artillery that he should not have as a felon. Did y'all hear me? Did y'all hear that? So, you mean to tell me that someone who has a felony in the possession of artillery that is illegal gives testimony or admits to being hired to do this, doesn't have any type of what do you say? He's not taken in due to him being a felon, having all of this artillery. Yet and still, he pretty much gets off scot-free of that. At the same time, giving them this so-called information on Jussie. How, Sway? How? You mean to tell me this right here? This right here. You see that face? Do you see that face? That's the face of someone who is disappointed. Now, all of this is my opinion, y'all. I'm not a face reader. I'm just saying. For someone to go through what he went through that night, terrified, he already looks like, man, what is really going on here? And they don't take this seriously. Does this face look like the face of someone who is joking and hoaxing around? No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. What I will say is this. Popo got some explaining to do. But we don't get into all that explaining. So the Fondario brothers pretty much say that Jussie paid them to beat him up, go get, the stuff we saw them buying and do all the things. Mind you, they got two white men running from the incident, ID'd by security. Also, a woman IDs one of those men who fit the description with rope hanging from them. They don't investigate them, but they investigate what two people say. One of them is a felon with illegal artillery in his possession. And you trust that? You mean tell me Popo would trust the word of a convicted felon with illegal armor and ammunition in his possession? We're going to pause for the call for about 30 seconds. Be right back. And we are back. Thanks for holding, y'all. Okay, so we got Popo taking the word of a convicted felon who has possession of illegal firearms in his house at the moment, and they take his word over two upstanding citizens, one being a rich white woman and a security guard. Does not strike you as odd? It strikes me. I'm like, why would they go that route? Because that's where Popo wanted to go. Okay, so also Popo said that Jussie sent himself the hate letter at work. They don't have proof of that. Again, it's how they're presenting the so-called evidence. Oh, it must mean this, that he sent it to himself. They had no evidence to back that allegation up. I said this years ago. They're just saying things to form a so-called educated opinion, and they don't have anything to back it up. Just like with the dry run, just because there's a footage of him driving on the same street. He didn't get out the car. He didn't pretend to fight. He didn't back up on the street. He didn't do donuts in the street. All he did was drive on the street. He didn't slow down. He didn't stop. He was just driving. That's what they said was a dry run. Come on, y'all. Now, what also was strange was, first of all, how they, said at first, we'll just let, thanks to Kim Fox, I think she's the head DA over there in Chi-Town, the first offer was for him to forfeit the 10K bond, because at this point, they have arrested him. I just forgot to mention that. Based on what the brother said, not based on any hard facts that could, be researched or anything. They just said, well, because of what the brother said, then he had to have sent the hate mail to himself. He lied about, excuse me? Did you dust up the fingerprints? Did you find his fingerprints? No. They have ways to find out where certain papers are from, all these watermarks that are, forensically done to find out, where it could have come from. None of that was done. They just said he had. This sounds so amateur from Chi-Town Popo. I can't believe I heard what I heard then, and I heard what I heard from this Netflix documentary. I was offended for him, because I would fight for him too, because nothing so far proves that he did any of this. So further, after they did their so-called second investigation on him, they wanted to charge him with, falsifying a hate crime, all that stuff that we know that happened. And so from that, Kim Fox arranged that he would, along with Jussie's lawyers, that he would forfeit the 10K bond that he put up, and they would not prosecute, and he would just, that's that. It wouldn't go any further. So it went up. So after that, he gave, first of all, that lead Popo didn't think it was fair, but it's above him, so he had to go along with it. So Jussie did a press conference. The Popo said he doubled down. What I heard was Jussie said, I'm in agreement with what he and Popo came up with, and I just want to say I'm going to still continue to fight for justice, yada, yada, yada. Nothing in that was a slap in the face. However, Popo thought it was. Ain't that nothing? Popo thought it was. So with that being said, someone above Miss Kim Fox said, we're going to actually indict him because now, probably thanks to that, head Popo dude, he probably went above her head and said, how dare he slap us in the face with that press conference, doubling down and yada, yada. I'm pretty sure he spoke to somebody who didn't look like us. Hello. Because Kim Fox is a Black woman. Because like I said, the things going on that's been reported going on over in Chi-Town Popo, some ain't right. Anyway, so I'm pretty sure that dude went over her head, complained, to the good old boys, and they removed her from that and said, we're going to go ahead and indict him anyhow. So they reneged on their deal, which I don't know how that could have happened. And that's why they had a trial. And that's why we saw him get chewed out by a judge. That's why we saw him give his speech and testimony as he was led away, not in handcuffs, but, luckily they didn't, take him in handcuffs as they normally do. And that's why we saw him, yelling out, he is not going to harm himself, and with his fist up in the Black Power way. And he did 6 days, got out, and it's been out ever since. During this time, he appealed, right? During all of this, people are like, we can't, but a lot of people believed what the Popo said he did. I don't see how. Again, I don't see how, based on circumstantial evidence and pretty much based on the word of a convicted felon who had illegal artillery and ammunition in his possession, along with his brother, and no real evidence. Now, again, testimony can be used in a conviction. However, something went wrong within that initial investigation. For them not to investigate those 2 white men running, as security pointed out, and as the neighbor saw one of those people running with rope coming out of his pants. Why is now the first time we're hearing of this? Okay, now I can tell you this. Back then, years ago, when all this first happened, they did say that there's an independent witness who saw what happened. That was the scuttlebutt, but nothing to this exact from these two independent witnesses. I just can't believe that the Popo did not investigate. They didn't even acknowledge those 2 independent witness statements, other than overzealous reporters who I'm going to talk about now. So thanks to some reporting by journalists who really wanted to see what happened. Check this out, y'all. When they got the police reports from this case, one in particular journalist mentioned how she also wanted the videotape of the suspects running past the other hotel. Because that was also incongruent with what the security guard said from the other hotel. So she says that after viewing the video, there's a 10-minute difference, meaning 10 seconds. 10 seconds of the video was removed. The reason why she mentioned that was because when the security guard said he flicked his flashlight, that's the part of the video that was removed from what is filed with the case evidence. Then the documentary flashes to reports over the decades of how Chi-Town Popo would destroy evidence or alter it to their benefit. I said, well, hot damn, what is we doing here? Where is internal affairs? Now, from my understanding, internal affairs is the people who investigate Popo. So I'm thinking, what in the world is going on? Where is internal affairs? They're the ones who need to get involved in this, because who else is going to keep Popo in line? Or is internal affairs in this shenanigans as well? So that particular investigative journalist discovered 10 seconds that would confirm the security guard's so-called run-in, if you will, with the assailants who reportedly, by Jussie, beat up on him, not those two Osundario brothers. Now, check this out. She asked for the 10 seconds and it could not be provided. Along with the reports of just remember what I said, how they have a history of jacking up and dismantling audio surveillance footage from stores and whatnot. I'm like, this right here, I just can't believe it. I can't believe it, but I just can't believe, like, really? So anyway, what else happened, child? Okay, so further investigation from the journalist, she mentioned how when trying to get the 10 seconds of the footage that was missing, she was met with resistance. So after all of this has been said, you mean to tell me there are two independent witnesses who corroborates Jussie's story? Instead, Chi-Town's finest decides to go with what a felon who has illegal firearms and ammunition in his possession, and his brother, who would also lie with him, so that they can go and mess with the actual victim. How many times have we heard that the victim is how do you say, where the victim is victimized within the same investigation? Too many times, and not just in Chicago, Illinois. I was floored, y'all. I was floored to hear what I heard from this documentary. If you haven't seen it, please go watch it. It is telling, and don't just take my word for it. I wouldn't lie to you. But what I will tell you is you need to go watch it. It was eye-opening ear opening, all the openings, child. It was so good. I couldn't believe it. No wonder they had, now in my opinion, now this also happened right along the course of this whole ordeal that Jussie had to go through with Chicago's Finest. After all the appeal and everything, all of this was dismissed from his record. I wonder if it has something to do with Popo not investigating what the security guard said as well as what the neighbor said. I really wonder, because why would they go through all this trouble to victimize the victim unless they just wanted him to go to jail? Because, in my opinion, I'm really trying to keep this about this case, but you can't help to think that all they want to do is put handcuffs on you, on us, and put us in jail. Even if it's just the handcuffs, they've won. I could be wrong. It's psychological, in my opinion, to break us down, to make us feel like, we don't have a chance in life, to make us believe that we can have justice, is what I believe is on the minds of those who oppress us. Because my narrative has been formed. It was formed then, but more so now. That's how I see what happened to him. Just to break him down, because he has two things that they don't like about this man. Well, actually, a few things. And I'm saying, from what I see, he's an African American man. He's a gay man, and he's pro-Black. And of course, he's pro. What, I don't know. I guess pro. I don't know. I never heard the term pro-gay, but he's definitely pro. Everything about himself. He fights, like I said, he fights for justice for Black people. He fights for justice for every letter of the rainbow. If you don't know what I'm talking about. So and that goes against what the savage doesn't like. So I'm gonna say this. I still believe Jussie. I believe that he was railroaded. I believe that he was wronged. And I'm glad that, unfortunately, he had to do time. Unfortunately, he had to experience all of that. And he can never get that time back. People are still talking about this man like a dog. And people shouldn't. I don't believe that he did this as a hoax. I don't believe that he hired those brothers. Now, if he admits to it, then he admits to it, and I'm wrong. But until then, I don't believe that he did this. I don't believe what the Popo said that he did with those. I don't believe the brothers. And furthermore, I believe that someone bigger and higher up in wealth has something to do with the hate mail coming to him. I believe those brothers were paid off, not by Jussie. I believe someone in common between Jussie and those brothers was the mastermind behind this. I do. Yeah. I'm gonna I'm gonna reserve who I think it is for a later time. If in fact that does come to fruition, you heard it here first, for the most part. And I think that's all my notes got. yeah, so big ups to Jussie. I hope one day the truth comes out more so than it already has. And I hope that your spirit is not so far gone, and whatever anger, resentment, disgust, whatever you may have for those who did this to you and those who did not protect or serve you, I hope that that goes away more quicker than anything else, if not already, because it just wasn't right. It was not right how he was done by those who are paid to protect and serve. He seems like another one on the laundry list of being victimized by those who are paid to protect and serve. And shame on everyone who was in cahoots with all of that. So, with that being said, I just want to say thanks again for tuning in. I appreciate you. And don't forget to like, comment, subscribe if you haven't already, and share. And we'll catch you next time. Bye, y'all. All day, all day. All day.